Hi, hello everyone. Welcome back to my channel. Today we will talk about the famous African writer Ben Okri. Ben Okri, born in 1959, belongs to African literature. Ben Okri was born in 1959 in Minna, Nigeria, to Nigerian parents of Edo and Yoruba descent, which deeply influenced his cultural perspective and his storytelling. He spent his early childhood in Nigeria, exposed to the rich oral traditions of African folklore and mythology. Experienced Nigeria's post-colonial struggles firsthand, including political instability and civil unrest, shaping the socio-political themes in his work. Okri moved to England as a teenager, which introduced him to Western literary traditions and provided a bicultural lens. He attended the University of Essex, but left before completing his degree to focus on writing, believing that literary creation required immersion rather than formal study alone. Literary style and innovations. Ben Okri pioneered the use of magical realism in African literature, blending a mystical and supernatural with the everyday reality. His narratives often center on spirit worlds, dreams, and metaphysical experiences influenced by traditional African cosmology and Yoruba spiritual beliefs. He combines poetic prose with the philosophical reflections, making his writing both lyrical and intellectually rich. He integrates elements of oral storytelling such as repetition, mythic motifs, and a symbolic language, creating a rhythmic, evocative narrative voice. Now let's analyze the major themes in Ben Okri's works. Post-colonial identity and alienation. Ben Okri explores the psychological and cultural effects of colonialism and its aftermath on African societies and individuals. Spirituality and the supernatural. He investigates the porous boundary between the material and the spiritual worlds, emphasizing the presence of spirits, ancestors, and mystical forces. Political corruption and social injustice. He critiques dictatorships, economic inequality, and systemic violence in Nigeria and across Africa. The power of imagination and storytelling. Ben Okri portrays storytelling as a vital tool for healing, resistance, and reshaping reality. Memory, history, and transformation. Ben Okri examines how personal and collective memories shape identity and a potential for renewal through change. Human resilience and hope. Despite darkness and suffering, Ben Okri's work often asserts the possibility of redemption and a transcendence. Now let's analyze the breakthrough work and a recognition of Ben Okri. The Famous Road 1991 is Ben Okri's best-known novel, winning the Booker Prize. The novel's protagonist, named Azaro, is an Abiku, that is spirit child, embodying the liminal space between life and death, reality and spirit. The novel blends folklore with a political critique addressing Nigerian society's complexities. The novel's critical acclaim established Okri as a leading literary figure and brought African magical realism to international attention. Now let's analyze the other significant works of Ben Okri. Songs of Enchantment 1993 and Infinite Riches 1998 continue the story of Azuro and explores evolving spiritual and social landscapes. In the work Arcadia 2002, the story shifts focus to a more contemporary London setting where it retains themes of myth and transformation. Starbook 2007 reimagines the creation myth and it deals with the clash between tradition and modernity. The Age of Magic 2014 returns to themes of hope amid a chaos, blending surrealism with a social commentary. His poetry, notably the work An African Elegy 1992, explores themes of beauty, nature, and the mortality with a lyrical intensity. Now let's analyze Ben Okri's philosophy and worldview. Ben Okri believes that literature should be a spiritual and a moral quest, aiming to reveal deeper truths beyond the material world. He views the writer as a seer or visionary, tasked with illuminating hidden realities and offering hope. He emphasizes the transformative power of imagination to confront despair and create new possibilities. He sees art as a form of alchemy that can transmute pain into beauty and insight. Now Ben Okri's political and social engagement. Ben Okri was a critic of authoritarianism, neocolonialism, and global inequality. He uses storytelling to resist oppressive narratives and amplify marginalized African voices. He advocates for cultural preservation alongside innovation, valuing African tradition while embracing change. He engages with contemporary issues such as environmental degradation, migration, and globalization. Now let's analyze Ben Okri's influence and legacy. Ben Okri is regarded as one of the most influential African writers of the late 20th and early 21st centuries. Inspired writers globally to blend local mythologies with modern literary forms. His works have been translated into numerous languages and are studied worldwide in post-colonial, African, and world literature courses. He continues to speak and write on literature's role in society, creativity, and human consciousness. Now let's analyze the awards and honors received by Ben Okri. He received a Booker Prize in 1991 for the work The Famished Road. He won the Premio Grinze Award from Italy in 1992, Crystal Award from the World Economic Forum 1999, the Fellow of the Royal Society of Literature in 2001, and received numerous honorary doctorates and literary prizes internationally. His personal life and later years. Ben Okri maintains residences in both Nigeria and the UK, reflecting his bicultural identity. He continues to produce novels, poetry, essays, and lectures globally, engaged in mentoring young writers and promoting literary culture across Africa. Now, the current relevance of Ben Okri as a writer. Ben Okri's work remains vital for its exploration of spirituality amid modern crises and its critique of ongoing social injustices. His fusion of myth and reality resonates in an increasingly fragmented, globalized world searching for meaning. He continues to be a voice for hope, resilience, and the creative power of storytelling in literature and society. Now let's analyze the main box of Ben Okri. The first book, The Famished Road, 1991. This novel follows the character Azaro, a spirit child, that is, a bhikkhu, who exists between the spiritual and physical worlds in Nigeria. It explores themes of political turmoil, colonial legacy, and the clash between tradition and modernity. The story blends magical realism with African folklore, portraying the struggles of ordinary people amid a social upheaval. The next book, Songs of Enchantment, 1993. This sequel to The Famished Road continues Azro's journey, deepening the exploration of the spiritual realm's influence on human lives. Themes of destiny, transformation, and a resistance against their oppression are central to the book. Azro's interactions with both the human and superhuman characters highlight the tension between change and continuity. The next book, Infinite Riches, 1998. The final novel in the trilogy focuses on the consequences of Azro's choices and the evolving Nigerian society. Themes of identity, legacy, and the search for meaning persist, with a stronger emphasis on political decay and renewal. Azro's narrative reflects our maturing awareness of the world's complexities. The next book, in Arcadia, 2002. Set largely in London, this novel follows a Gaudi, a man grappling with the meaning of paradise and a human connection. It examines themes of memory, desire, and the fragility of happiness. The work blends realism with allegorical elements to question modern life's disillusionments. The next book, Star Book, 2007. The story centers on the character Limi, a girl born under a mysterious star in a world where magic and tradition coexist with modern challenges. Themes of fate, free will, and the clash between old beliefs and new realities dominate the narrative. The novel reimagines creation myths within a contemporary African setting. The next book, The Age of Magic, 2014. This novel focuses on a city teetering on the edge of chaos, where a poet tries to rekindle wonder and hope through storytelling. Themes of renewal, the power of imagination, and the conflict between despair and optimism are permanent. Characters embody the struggle to preserve humanity's magic in dark times. The next book, A Way of Being Free, 1997. A collection of essays reflecting on art, freedom, and spirituality, blending personal insight with a cultural critique. Ben Okri discusses the role of the artist as a visionary and the importance of imagination. The work emphasizes literature's potential to liberate and transform. The next work, An African Elegy, 1992. A poetry collection celebrating life, nature, and resilience amid a hardship. It explores the beauty and pain of the African landscape and spirit. The poem combined lyricism with profound philosophical reflections on existence. The next book, Mendel Fight, 1999. A poetry collection where it delves into themes of conflict, survival, and the human mind's resilience. Okri uses vivid imagery to explore psychological and societal struggles. The poems challenge readers to confront violence and seek inner strength. The next book, Hunting in the Forest, 2009. A novel centered on the life of a writer navigating memory, creativity, and personal loss. Themes of storytelling, identity, and the elusive nature of truth emerge. The forest metaphor represents both the imagination and the unknown. The next work, Stars of the New Curfew, 1996, a collection of stories and poems that explore themes of modern African life, spirituality, and transformation. Ben Okri presents characters caught between tradition and modernity. The book highlights the tensions and possibilities within a changing society. The next book, Graceland, 2004, a novel portraying a post-apocalyptic world where humans struggle to rebuild civilization. Themes of survival, mortality, and hope in a face of destruction prevail. The characters reflect humanity's enduring spirit and flaws. The next work, Dangerous Love, 1996, a novella that investigates passion, obsession, and the blurred boundaries between love and destruction. Themes of desire and psychological intensity are central. The story challenges conventional notions of romance. The next work, The Landscapes Within, 1981, is Okri's debut novel focusing on inner psychological landscapes and external social realities. Themes of self-discovery, alienation, and creativity are explored through the protagonist's journey. The book shows early signs of his characteristic blunting of realism and mysticism.